what is your first memory that you can remember why you wanted to be a country music singer?
Well, gosh, my first memory was at the Opry, being backstage at the Grand Ole Opry at the Ryman Auditorium with my dad, and seeing little Barbara Mandrell skip out to the stage, and Dolly Parton and Loretta and all their shoes they used to wear, and it was just, it was like a little kid in a candy shop. I mean, I wanted to be a part of that. I didn't know at that time if I could sing or not, but I wanted to be out there, and it just became my dream. I started practicing, pantomiming with hairbrushes and perfume bottles, and I'd put on shows for my dad, and I actually would charge him 25 cents to come in and watch me, So, but I would probably as early as 5, 6 years old.
Mm-hmm. So you just knew it's what you wanted to do.
I knew it.
So that's how you'd make a living if it was 25 cents or
25 cents or 25,000. Yeah. And the truth is, the night that I performed for the first time on the stage at the Ryman, I was 13 or 14 years old, and I got like the first standing ovation in 25 years. And so I was like, I walked off stage and said, yep, this is what I want to do. So I knew I'd found what I wanted to do in life.
Well, talking about being 13 and on the stage at the Ryman, you were one of the youngest people inducted into the Grand Ole Opry. So what was that feeling like? Just explain it. You said it's what you wanted to do, but...
Oh, it was awesome. I didn't know at the time that I was the youngest to ever be inducted. I knew that I was one of two who was inducted with not having a hit record. It was me and Justin Tubb. And Hal always told me, Hal Durham was the manager of the Opry, and he said it was because of my love for the Opry that made me a member. It wasn't because I had the biggest hit record, but it was my dedication, being there every week, even when I wasn't on. And back then, there wasn't as many members, of course, as there is now. And so if Connie Smith or Jeannie Seeley or Jan Howard or somebody had to cancel, they always called me to fill in for them. So I felt like I was a member anyway. And so just being there and showing my dedication and my love is what made me a member, what got me my membership.
So you talk about this dedication and love at such a young age, and I know you still have to have that same dedication and love today to still get up and perform every day. How have you been able to keep that passion and drive through all these years? Because it seems some artists might get burnt out, but you're not at all. It seems like you still have that same love.
Well, I do have the same love, but I have to tell you, there are days that you get burnt out and you think to yourself, man, is this what I'm going to do the rest of my life? And all of a sudden one day you go, hell yes, what I'm going to do. This is what I was born to do, This is me. This is who I am. I am music. I am about music. I live and breathe music. And to think I could do something else sometimes is ridiculous. I mean, I probably could if I put my heart and soul into it, but I don't think I could put my heart and soul into anything like I do music. And it's like it's a job. It's like any job. You get tired, you get bored, you get doing the same thing night after night after night. So I try and find ways to, when I'm on the stage to work new things in and try different things and take a different route to California or just something I haven't seen before, just something different. You just got to keep trying to make it interesting and fun.
Yeah. Well, you talked about, and of course everyone knows about your father, and you grew up watching him perform all those years. Was it hard for you, or maybe you think an advantage having a father in the music industry?
It was kind of a on the fence kind of thing, because so many people loved my dad. I mean, I don't know if that my dad had an enemy in this industry. He was just a kind, soft-hearted, sense of humor. You always had fun when you were with Dad. He didn't have a bad thing to say about anybody. And then, to fill those shoes was difficult for me because, again, I was always there with Dad, so I wasn't anything new. It was kind of like, wallpaper. Oh, she's George's daughter, you know, and here comes Kathy Mattea or somebody who's new, and they're exciting. So, you know, it was great in a way. I could get my foot in the door to see people in publishing companies because they loved my dad. Now, whether I was going to get signed to a label was another thing because, you know, again, all these fresh faces would come in town, and for me, it wasn't that easy.
This interview goes on our site, Music Starts Here, and it is a site that's solely to educate artists and people coming to town that are trying to make it in the music industry. So what advice would you give artists that maybe already have that advantage like you have, or maybe artists that are new that are trying to make it, just maybe to find their way, their own identity?
You have to have your own identity, and it took me a long time. I put a lot of identities together. I was a big Karen Carpenter fan, and Tammy Wynette fan, and a Brenda Lee fan, Connie Smith, and I just kind of started putting them all together, and it came up with Lorrie Morgan, everybody still compares me a little bit to Karen Carpenter on a lot of songs, but the thing is perseverance, and it's really hard to be told no, and you know or I don't like this song, but you got to remember it's one person's opinion. You know, I had somebody almost ruin my whole confidence in my songwriting because every time I took them a song, it was, nah, I don't really like that. It was just one person. I took it to someone else, and they're like, oh, please tell me you wrote this song, you know, and you have to be, you have to believe in what you're selling, yourself, and yeah, you get knocked down, but that only gives you the strength. It only gives you the, and I have a son who's 28 years old who is trying to make it in the business himself. And, you know, everybody's like, well, it should be really easy for you. Your mom's Lorrie Morgan, your dad was Keith Whitley. On the contrary, you know, he's had to prove that he's not Keith Whitley. He's not going to sound like Keith Whitley. He's his own Southern rock kind of guy, and that's who he is. He's a great singer, but he's not Keith Whitley, and he's not Lorrie Morgan, thank God. But he's, you know, he's in that stage where he's wondering, you know, why I can't get this done or why I can't get that done. And I've said, son, it's timing, and you got to earn those stripes, and you got to take the knocks, because, you know, hypothetically. What if you would come in and you were 17 years old and boom, everybody loved you and you have a big tour bus and you're making all this money, and are you really proud of that? Wouldn't you be more proud if you're almost 30 years old and you finally got your dream? I mean, it takes a while. You know, Chris Christopherson was a janitor. You know, Alan Jackson worked in a mailroom. So it's not about coming here and just overnight being somebody. It's earning that. It's living it, and it creates that passion. You can't just wake up and have passion one day. You got to earn it, and you got to live it, and you got to be told no.
Yeah, I agree with any job, and you have to have that passion, I think, also to write great songs.
Of course
you
do.
So you need that experience so you can write those great songs. So talking about that, maybe tell us a little bit about your songwriting process. Was it maybe being told no, having these personal experiences that gave you the ideas to go into your songwriting?
I was kind of a different songwriter than you know what the songwriters are writing now. I was more of a, how shall I say it, more of a poetical, poetic songwriter. More frou-frou, more love, you know, things like that. Things that really weren't cool at the time that I was writing them, you know. I was around Roseanne Cash and Emmy Lou, and, you know, they were writing the cool stuff, and I was writing the "Love's like a butterfly," you know, kind of thing. And but my songwriting is I don't write with people. I don't enjoy writing with other people except Kelly Lang and Mark Oliverius. That's my comfort zone, and they bring out this other side of me that is a great songwriter. By myself, I'm that poetic little, fairy tale person. But songwriting it's very personal, and you do have to. My brother used to say, "Lorrie, you don't have to be a living country song." I said, "Oh yes, I do. Oh yes, I do. If I want to be what I want to be, I have to experience the things that." And you don't know, okay, when you're experiencing heartache. Well, this is good for me. At least I'll be able to write a song from this. You don't think that. It just happens. It just happens. So songwriting is a very personal thing, and you have to find the partner that you feel comfortable writing with, or it won't come out. And I don't even remember what question you asked me.
No, I talked about your process and how you go about that. No, that is very helpful. I mean, just like with anything, you have to find that chemistry with someone to share those personal emotions with them.
Yeah, they used to tell me, "Lorrie, you need to go write with Roseanne and Emmylou and all these people." I'm like, but I'm not that kind. I'm not them. Their world and my world are totally different. So I found my niche with it took me years, but I found who I needed to write with. It's a process, and it takes a while.
Mm-hmm. Well, talking about songwriting, we want to talk about your new album of classics that you're coming out with, which is exciting. But how do you go about picking those classic songs, or any song for any album? What does that look like for you?
Well, the process for this album was that I didn't even know if I was going to ever make another album again. I had gotten to the point where my heart wasn't in it. I had lost some passion, and I couldn't find the right songs. I knew I wasn't radio playable at this point of my life. It's just the facts. It's the way it is. It's just how it is. So I faced the fact that we were not going to record for radio. We were going to record for me and for my fans, and what I think they expect from me and what I like to sing for them. And so I've been collecting some of these songs for about 10 years, and finally, after it being about 5 years since I recorded an album, I got in touch with Richard Landis, and I said, "We got to get together. We got to get back in the studio." And he said, "I totally agree." And we got together, and I took all the songs, all 11 songs. He brought one of the songs to record, and I said, "Don't even say anything. These are the songs we're recording. These are what I feel." He listened to every one, and he loved them. He's in the same place in his life that I'm at. So we got it. We connected. And Richard Landis is, he's so genius that he's crazy. He's like this modern day Mozart. He's, Beethoven. He's just creative, and he got it, and he put this band together, and we all just kind of connect. The stars all lined up for this album. And picking the songs was not hard, because I just started collecting songs that I loved, that I wanted to sing someday. Spilt Milk I've had with me for 10 years. Is It Raining at Your House I've been wanting to record for about 9 or 10 years. I've Done Enough Dying Today I wanted to record for at least 10 years. So all these songs I've held on to, plus I've collected new ones that I fell in love with, and I finally said, "Look, I got enough here for an album, and I'm ready." And it all worked out. It just kind of came together.
Well, talking about this new album, then also back to your old hits, getting those #1 hits that you've had, maybe describe that feeling and how it was such hard work to get there, because people think you just need the good song to get it at #1 for it to stay there. Talk about some of that hard work, that it's not just having a good song, it's much more than that.
Oh, it's much more. It's I had kind of auditioned, if you will. Harold Shedd produced a couple songs on me to get me on RCA, and I got turned down. And I got turned down by MCA and by Capitol and Columbia and every label in town. I got turned down. I recorded great songs, and it's just one time. We don't need another female. We don't need another female. So finally, I went in with Blake Mevis, and he recorded a song that made a big record for Randy Travis that Randy wrote called "I Told You So." And I was about 9 months pregnant when I went in and recorded it. And Keith, my late husband, Keith Whitley, was on RCA as well, and Joe heard the record and said, "That's it, we're signing her for one single." And we went in, we had 4 songs we were going to do with Barry Beckett, and he heard 4 of them, and he said, we're giving her an album deal. And I got lucky and got an album out. The number 1 song off of that album, I think the first number 1 song was, let's see, Trainwreck went to 14, Dear Me went to number 9. I think the first number 1 was Out of Your Shoes, if I'm not mistaken. And but the process that you have to, this media day, tons of media, tons of traveling from state to state, going to radio to radio to radio. And, you know, it's good for young people to do that. This lady ain't doing it no more. I'm not doing it
Been
no
there,
more.
done that.
Been there, done that 1,000 times. And but it is good. It's good for you. My son has been out there on radio, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, Mom, how did you do this?" And it's funny. He goes in these radio stations and sends me pictures of my gold album and him in a radio station. You know, so. But it is hard work. It's not easy. You miss a lot of things, but you also gain your dream. You know, and anything worth having's worth fighting for. And some things you got to give up. You know, to have your dream. It's not easy, and this business is no place for sissies.
Yes, very, very true. And you touched on earlier in that question that you got turned down, especially saying we don't need another girl singer. And recently, this past summer, we know that country music is male dominated, and some people don't think there's room for female artists. What would you maybe say to artists that are females that are just dying to be in the country music genre? What advice would you give them, especially coming from your own experience?
Well,
how hard it is?
You know, my daughter-in-law is in a new group called Post Monroe, and they're super talented songwriters, and they're beautiful, and they're just starting out, and they have a great producer, Dave, with Lady Antebellum is producing them, and his wife Kelly is managing them, and they work hard every day. They're in town writing every day. They're getting themselves seen. They're making a good name for themselves. It is hard for women. It is a male-dominated business, but you know, I think that there's room for all of us to have a place in music. You can't just have one painter or one singer. You have to have a variety for people, and it's just perseverance, as I said. I mean, it's hard, and women have to prove themselves a lot more than men do in this business. And here's the other thing, you know, a guy can get off the bus in a ball cap, and he's kind of half shaven, and women are like, "Oh my God, he's so cute." I get off in a ball cap with no makeup, and they're going, "Is Lorrie on the bus?" You know, I'm like, "No, she's not here today." So it's a big difference. Women have a lot of maintenance to do on the road. Men don't, and it's important for women to get sleep, drink a lot of water, and you know, you have to keep your regimen of taking care of yourself more so than the guys do.
Yeah,